The fastest way for growth is to actually not follow your passion. Follow the opportunity and to follow what works.
Going from 5 million to 10 million to 15 million, things that we've already accomplished.
Why not us?
Exactly. Why aren't we them?
I'm Drew Collum with OptiGrowth AI, CEO of Quality Solar. We're going to talk a little bit about our partnership. Me and Mr. Kevin Goodwin here. Been the pleasure of working together for the past 6 years. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we can go ahead and take it from there.
My name is Kevin Goodwin. I am the Chief Business Officer of Quality Solar. I am the Executive Vice President of OptiGrowth AI. Drew and I have been business partners for 6 years. Had a lot of ups and downs in the first years, determined to be successful. And thankfully for the last few, we've had a lot of success. We feel like we're at the point where we can start teaching other people about the success so they don't make the same mistakes that we did. And that's why we've started OptiGrowth AI. And it's also why we are going to be doing consulting work off of the OptiGrowth AI to really help catapult people going from 5 million to 10 million to 15 million, things that we've already accomplished, and have them do it sooner so they're not making the same mistakes. A lot of systems to put in place, ways to hire people.
Yeah, that's awesome. So take it back to the beginning, right? Because I met you when I was selling windows and I'd already had a successful business before that I'd exited. Definitely not anywhere near the success that we're currently on in our trajectory, but took a step back and got into just like an outside sales role because I knew I was good at sales. I knew I was charismatic and could talk to people, and I wasn't quite sure what that next, opportunity was. And so I think that that's something that we can kind of hone in on here, is that some people, like, they're trying to attack based off of their passion, when really their passion might not get them to that next $50 million company, which everybody is typically trying to aim for, unless they're happy with just being passionate about something and just kind of barely scraping by. But those aren't the business owners that we want to target, right?
Correct.
We want to target somebody who has an opportunity that's of a lifetime. And we're going to bring out the best in that CEO and in that business and talk about the strategies, basically the architecture that we put together. We're selling architecture as a service now, but talk about a little bit how we met that first day.
Yeah, I come from a restaurant background originally, my family, but then very soon after college went into mortgage financing and lending, and then had my own company doing that with 4 other partners. It was extremely successful, and then subprime lending went away in '08, and literally 75% of the industry did. Title companies, banks, appraisers, builders. And so from there, I pivoted into buying properties. My family members who had great credit, we could buy them and then buy and hold them for a while and then flip them for a profit. And then during that time period, and I was doing that with my twin brother, Will. We were very successful with that as well. We were actually asked to be on a Property Brothers TV show, our success as twins.
The Property Brothers.
The Property Brothers. Yeah, I didn't even know who they were.
Because that was at the inception of what Property Brothers actually is today.
Correct. Yeah. I was asked, one of their producers called us, and I was asked to speak with them in regards to being on a TV show. I didn't know there were twins that were flipping real estate. I didn't know.
Because you flipped how many houses during that time period, and what years are we talking about?
2010 to 2017, and we didn't do any new builds. They were all rehabs, so those are faster. They can be anywhere from 60 days to 120 days. We would choose, the sweet mark for us was to be in and out of the property in 90 days if we could. We did multi-unit buildings, so we went by units. Some of them were single families as well. It would be in the range of 75 units during that time. Then there was a bubble that collapsed with that as well. Unfortunately, my twin brother died of cancer very suddenly in the beginning of 2017. He was sick for a year before that. We didn't know what was really wrong. And because we were asked to be on this show and silent partner wasn't, he had a parting of ways. Money was stolen. He felt like he had really helped build us as a brand, and now that they didn't want him to be part of the show and they wanted us to be part of the show, it didn't sit well with him at all. So in the middle of Will being sick and me trying to find alternative ways to save his life, he had angiosarcoma and no one's ever really lived from that. And during that time, there was a lot of money stolen out of our business account. He was the managing partner of that business and chose to shut it down, switch the titles, how properties that we were rehabbing into other people's names. It was really ugly. It was a loss of a lot of money, well into the 7 figures, along with the potential profits that would have happened. We had a number of rentals at the time too. That pocket of Chicago had dipped where they were basically, the value had cut in half. They felt like it was an overinflation of the values in that neighborhood. It was Inglewood, Chicago at the time. And there were 4 or 5 builders that were building all the properties. A lot of those properties started to foreclose. So even though there were a lot of that area of the city was being rehabbed, banks chose to cut the value of those properties because of the foreclosures that were taking place. And so we were in the middle of building several of those, 6 2 units at the time, and we were ready to close. The bank had already done the appraisals. So they had determined the value, then just decided to cut the values in half for what they were willing to lend on because of what was happening inside the market, even though they had already done an appraisal agreeing with the value. That alone was a loss of $400,000 in value. The embezzlement happened 2 months after that. So Will died 3 months after that. So it was quite a collapse. So anyway,
hard time.
A year later, I meet a woman that I started dating who wanted to be in real estate as well. So she wanted to learn how to flip houses. And so we started buying houses of our own. And I was able to short sell some of the properties that had devalued to her because she wasn't a family member, so it was a non-arm's length transaction. So she was able to get the benefit of newly rehabbed 2-unit buildings for a third of the cost, already filled with Section 8 tenants.
You're saying a lot of these real estate terms. I'm going to probably put a pause on you real quick because you're also a realtor.
I am.
Right. And so you have tons and tons of experience as far as making money in real estate. Can you put a number on us from back then of like what your estimated net worth was, just to provide a little bit of context?
My guess would be it was probably worth $3.5 million, $4 million. But it would have been so much more if they hadn't devalued and the money hadn't been stolen. I was in the middle of rehabbing 3 houses that were each just under $1 million. And my percentage, Will and I would have had 50% of that profit. Also, it stopped me from being able to do anything. So, because so much of my money was taken and value to rebuild it. It took years to rebuild it, where I would have been able to 2 or 3x the money if it hadn't been taken. That's a big thing people need to realize is opportunity cost. But anyway, back to how you and I met. So I was in the middle of rehabbing a beautiful, that place was gorgeous, wasn't it, in Hyde Park? Built in 1911, 1 floor, 4,000 square feet. They don't make them this way anymore, guys. All mahogany, 100% mahogany wood. There were a lot of windows in the building, and you were a really successful window salesman at the time. So you were working for one of the big 3 window companies. We asked you to come in, and I remember opening the door, really hot summer day.
It's a little sweaty.
Yeah, but you were in great shape. Your body, Drew's a former bodybuilder, and he was in amazing shape. He had these big windows.
We actually focus on that in our business consulting. That's actually one of the pillars, is maintaining, optimal physical health and nutrition, because that's what gets you to the next level. If you don't feel good, if you keep waking up and you feel like shit, you're probably going to perform like shit too. And so that's actually one of the pillars of our business consulting program with OptiGrowth AI. We'll talk about that later too.
We will. So critical to balance your macros, drink water, meditate, exercise. So you walk in with these big windows, and in these cases, and you're sweating. It's a huge, beautiful staircase, but a huge staircase that you have to walk up to get to the floor that we're on.
Yeah. It's like 3 stories high, but it was like really like 6 because they're like 15-foot ceilings.
Yeah.
And so we had to get all the way up there. Yeah. And it was really tight because this thing was built in like 1901.
11, yeah.
Or something like that,
yeah. Gorgeous, but man, not user-friendly. We spoke for at least 2 hours, 2.5 hours. When you'd left, we'd signed the contract to buy the windows from him. And when he left, I told my fiance at the time, this guy's going to be my business partner. I was dropping her off at a doctor's appointment, and I said, I know this guy's going to be my business partner. I didn't know at the time if you even wanted to do anything in real estate.
Yeah, I was studying real estate and wholesaling, and I was getting into it. At the time I was 24.
Yeah, you were young.
So like I mentioned, I was just exiting a supplement company. I had a brick and mortar store in one of the south side suburbs of Illinois. I was just trying to get my feet wet in a couple other areas of business. I knew real estate was going to be the future. It still is going to be the future, right? We own properties now. We're only going to add to that portfolio, which is one of the big symbols of generational wealth. Yeah, so once we connected, right, this is what it was.
Yeah.
She was the only person in all of my career of selling windows that wanted to like go to the warehouse to like look to see how they were made and manufactured, and like wanted to meet people.
I was so
like
embarrassed.
My manager and stuff like that. And like it was weird because I'd never had that before. And we actually had just opened up the Chicago branch for the company that I was with. It was like a warehouse that was like just completely empty, that just had a couple like sample windows in there. Like they were still building it out and remodeling it. They were working out of the Cleveland, or I think it was Columbus. The Columbus branch was like their big hub, which actually had everything, but clearly we weren't, driving or flying to Cleveland. But anyway, we got there and I was like, I don't know if this is going to solve anything, but we did it, right? Mm-hmm. And then we met again.
Yeah, but at that meeting, we started talking about wholesaling.
Yeah. For sure.
Because I was in the middle of wholesaling properties. That was a very profitable industry at that time. Inventory isn't as much now, but it was then. And then you expressed an interest in that. I had told you that I had my realtor's license. In the state of Illinois, you've got to have a real estate license to be able to wholesale. Some states you don't. Then we very shortly after that started driving for dollars.
Yeah, driving for dollars, cold calling, hiring BAs, and the whole nine. And within 30 days, we did our first deal.
Right.
It's like $9,000 commission, which is more than you get as a realtor, unless you're selling super expensive houses.
Yeah, you get 2.5%. So yeah, anyone can do the math on that. You can make a lot more money in wholesaling then.
And within 90 days after that, We'd closed down, I think, 6 other properties, generated over $100,000 more money than, I had ever made in that short of a time frame. And then we were like, let's level up to the big boys. And so you had already had experience with flipping. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we took that experience, met a couple other contractors. We just went all in because we're risk takers. A lot of business owners are, especially young like me. We're extremely risk adverse. It's one of the big factors of, as a young CEO or as a young entrepreneur, it's the best time to be risk adverse because you can always just fail.
Yeah.
And fail and fail. You're not really setting yourself back because what did you have to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And so definitely urge you as a young entrepreneur just to be extremely, extremely risk oriented and take the leap and shoot for whatever your highest potential dreams are, because on that opportunity and that chance that you do make it, obviously it's going to live in vain. So,
and that's what I loved about you. You had so much drive. And it reminded me of me at your age. I mean, we're a generation apart. I'm 50, you're 30. We both grew up in small farm towns.
Yeah, you're older than my parents.
I know. I'm a year older than his parents. I'm really close with them. They're awesome. Both grew up in small farm towns. We were both most likely to succeed. We both did really well in sports and in academics. We were just very similar people, but yet different. I mean, you've got a photographic memory, just much more structured. And I saw that structure, especially when we started doing business together. I mean, we did our first, we met in like June. And by that January, we'd closed on 3 houses, $250,000 budgets roughly within 6 months of knowing each other.
Right. That's quick.
Yeah. And it was exciting.
We learned a lot.
Sure did learn a lot. Giving contractors too much money in the beginning instead of waiting for more growth. The way the structured payments were supposed to be made total sense to me. That's how I did them. But you just got to make sure you're doing them with contractors and we just kind of ran with.
Well, it was trying to balance, do we take the cheaper option, that could help net us a little bit more funds, or do we take the more expensive option that really isn't going to be generating us but $10,000 to $20,000 upon the sale of the house, 10%. Which wasn't what we were aiming for. But it's okay because, like I said, we learned a lot from that, and we will never make those mistakes again. We've already pivoted away and completely set up, like with Quality Solar.
Yes.
That we run together. I mean, there's no way in any shape or form that somebody that we currently work with could put us in a situation where that could, fall off because of that.
So many systems, safeguards in place.
Yeah. So, which is one of the value adds of failing in business, just like Alex Hormozi, Russell Branson, Donald Trump, Mark Cuban, all have had failed businesses before they actually made it. I think it's one of the keys. Yeah. It's one of actually the things that make you successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
In my opinion. So,
yeah, you can't be afraid to fail and learn from it to push forward to succeed. I think most entrepreneurs that are successful have failed. And if they haven't, and someone
should fail.
Yeah. And then, by the way, guys, if they haven't, or they're telling you they haven't, be very wary of that person if you don't know them.
Yeah.
Because they're probably lying to you. They're probably trying to do that to you, from what I've learned.
Yeah.
But yeah, we held several homes, started doing these midterm Airbnbs as well. And then one of your buddies from high school calls.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about, the opportunity call.
Yeah.
Basically, instead of doing things you're passionate about, which, don't get me wrong, going green and saving the environment, that's could be a passion for some people, but it wasn't necessarily a passion for either one of us. No. But once we saw what the incentives were for getting solar in Illinois especially, there's only 5 states in the whole nation that actually do a state credit on top of the federal, on top of the utility. So, I mean, basically the customers, especially when we first started, because there's been a lot of industry changes since we started Quality Solar, which we've had to pivot and navigate, and all businesses will. We have ways of actually making sure that the business keeps moving forward and growing quarter after quarter with the architecture as a service with OptiGrowth, and to get ahead of the shortcomings and short paths of industry changes.
We weren't really gung-ho about solar. We didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But when we learned that...
We're talking about the difference between passions and opportunities.
Correct.
When this was just an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yes. Well, in solar, if any of you don't know that, it's not as bad now as it was, but because of the incentives in Illinois and the federal state incentives, you didn't have to be a great salesperson.
It's like the gold rush.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right.
Everybody was flocking to it.
Yeah. Very similar to subprime lending, back when they would give people with a pulse a loan. You're talking 02 to 08, when that's why it collapsed. Very easy to sell at that time as a broker. Solar is very easy to sell, but no one gets paid on solar until it's installed. So they did not have anywhere near enough installers.
So we saw that, and we were like, we already have experience with contracting.
Yeah.
We're great salesmen.
Yes.
We've operated many businesses, some successful, some not, and we're going to put all of our knowledge together. And I think this was the first business that we actually sat down and was like, let's draft out a framework of like how we are going to be successful and just relentlessly attack that every single day. I mean, we were both putting in, 70 to 80 hours a week.
Yes. Because we also still had real estate guys. We were still landlords.
Yeah. There's a fine line between, people who say they work hard and actually working hard. There's always more work because it's like, if you want to consider yourself in the top 1% or the top 0.1% of people, that means you have to not only work twice as hard as the average person, not 10 times as hard as the average person. You have to work 100 to 1,000 times harder than the average person to be able to earn and get the tangible skills that you need to be successful. As far as putting a team together, understanding the industry, legal terms, many other things, which I'm sure you can touch on here. I take over mainly the operations and the sales end and the team building, and Kevin is handling all of the other legal and administrative and back end things that all businesses need.
Dealing with the banks, dealing with the legalities, dealing with the state boards that we're a part of. It's not the sexy stuff. With AI OptiGrowth, though, I am much more hands-on with the client.
Because you've been there for it all.
Yes.
That's the great thing about our partnership, and the thing that I value with you is that you've always been right there. It wasn't like, oh, you're going to go over here and you're going to work on this portion of the business and I'm going to work over here on this portion of the business. And one day we're going to, align. We were always right there in line with each other, running parallel paths, which is huge. And I think it demonstrates a lot about us as partners and as somebody who can work together with somebody who we don't always share, common thoughts.
Correct.
Or not always aligned. But we understand the big picture of what we're trying to accomplish. And so obviously that will always prevail.
Yes. And Drew's got a photographic memory. Drew belongs in the CEO role. A generation younger than you, and you've already experienced a lot, made money, lost money too. I'm doing this for all of you middle-aged entrepreneurs. You need to be honest with who you are and always partner yourself and hire people that are more talented than you. You don't need to be the biggest fish. In fact, if you are, you're failing. And you were much smarter than me. I had skill sets you didn't have, but so many of them were the same too. And so believe me, if your gut isn't feeling right about who you're with too, you need to pivot from that as well. You can train somebody to do anything. You've got to be involved with people that you like, that you trust, and that have skill sets you don't possess. You can't have a bunch of the same people in the same company. Behavioral tests are extremely important so that you know the type of person when you're going to look to hire and partner with. There has to be a lot more. People see this dream of being a business, but they need a lot more practicality to it. And that's what we bring to it because we're very emotional guys. We're brothers, very close to each other's families, but we separate the two when we talk about business. We absolutely have to. You've got to be able to do that and be honest with yourself, which is what we help people do. We help them look at those things because we've been through them. We've been through embezzlements.
Yeah, the small details that people don't normally think of when starting a business or running a business, especially as, I'm going to put quotes around the CEO here because I think even we ran into this issue before where like, hey, like I'm the CEO, but you're still just so neck deep in the operations of like you actually doing the work and like being the one in the front of the line and charging forward. That's not really what a true CEO is. And so that's what we help understand and unveil in people's businesses as we're consulting with OptiGrowth, because that's one of the key things. If we can get that person, that head figure, to actually take a step back and view what he's created thus far from like a third person view, that's where we start to see the biggest success. And then we can implement a strategy and a structure to be just unbelievably successful.
Well, when your eyes really open, we get coached by Alex Hormozi. We pay a large amount of money to be in a very high level team with him. We learned that very clearly, the bottleneck that happens with the CEO when you're trying to go from 5 million to programs in place to go to 10, 15, 20. And you can do that rapidly if the right systems are in place. Well, you need to be dealing with people that have already done that. Be willing to listen to it too and spend some money to find these things out if you really want to grow, because it's going to cost money. Consulting costs money. These things cost money, but they save you so much money.
It's two things here, which I want to touch on. One is consulting, which we help do, is genuinely making more money and how to make more money, but it's also protecting you against not losing money. So that's another key thing that we do. Put both of them together and you have a match made in heaven, right? where we've seen businesses go from 50K a month to 150K a month within just a couple months after we started working with them. We implemented a marketing system and operational procedures, help them with hiring, and the list goes on. But it's just night and day difference when the business owner comes to us and is like, thank you so much for everything. And we become families with them, and we truly have strong brotherhoods built with everybody that we work with. The methods that we are doing in our own businesses, Quality Solar and OptiGrowth, is what we practice, preach, and implement into other people's businesses.
Yeah, how we found them to partner with them, in essence, which is what we do. We end up partnering with them. If we know it's a fit, we end up helping process. We have a very detailed processing system of payments because we need to do it for Quality Solar. And if we know there's a fit, we end up just partnering up with these people, a lot of them. About 25 to 30% of the people we work with will partner up with if we really see it going somewhere.
It's like C-suite consulting. That's another way to put it. We got the legal team, the financial team, CFO. That's one of like the big things. Anything before $5 million. That's why we don't work with businesses that are under $5 million, because they don't even have any structure in place to even see like a foreseeable future of like what it could look like if everything was just like put into a perfect place where it should be, because they don't even have some of those key players. And so we wait until you're at least hitting 5 million in revenue before we start to work with you, because we have to be able to actually do things with the business instead of actually just like doing the business for you. I feel like anything before 5 million, it would just be us doing the business. And so that's what we want to stay away from. So 5 to 50 million, that's really what our sweet spot is. We've scaled out Quality Solar now to over 50 million at the end of this year. And it was a really quick turnaround once we figured out the correct practices and procedures to put into place and the right key team members.
Yeah, the team's the key. And then right when you start replacing, because you've got to pay for talent. When you're looking at your profit margins, we're telling you to scale. We had to do the same thing. Well, scaling means you've got to hire talented people. Well, that costs money. Yeah. Well, so then you're betting on the fact that putting those people in place will make your company run smoother. And not only that, it'll free your time up. We'll have the other ways that you can be generating money, because we do the same thing again with our own company. We're one of those companies that we're helping. We put the things in place that helped us get to where we're at. And we're speaking from experience, and it's very recent experience. It isn't like we're talking about a company that we created a decade ago. We're currently the owners of Quality Solar, and it's currently a very successful solar company.
Solar companies have just taken massive blows recently in the last 2 years. We're some of the top in the nation. We're talking about name drop, Titan, SunPower, any other companies that are like, I'm talking 100 million, 200 million, even $500 million are just gone because of the changes that's happened. We've been able to read and react and actually pivot away from the things that they were doing wrong due to sticking on the course that we put into place and actually come out on top and be greener than we were when the industry started.
The biggest mistake we find that people make, they try to scale too fast. They try to grow too fast. You've got to really find that balance of growth versus your product that you're providing. You can't sacrifice the product for growth itself. You have to be able to do both. Thankfully, you need to also try and keep your debt down. We don't have any debt in our solar company, and liquidity is really important in this industry because you're pre-buying equipment you're going to be installing. Yeah. You're buying the equipment that people are traveling in. You need to have cash to be able to do that instead of stacking loans upon loans. If there ever is a downturn or a policy change, you can weather the storm financially. And if you're growing too fast and you're having trouble with payroll because you're growing as fast as you are, a major problem. There's a certain percentage of how much money you should be keeping liquid that we talk to our clients about.
Another free piece of advice is, I want to be called advice. This is what we're talking about here, right? Ultimately, you could hire a director of operations for $150,000 a year. You could hire CFO, you could hire a chief growth officer, all the things that you need to actually exponentiate your growth. And it would cost you $500,000 a year. Or you could work with a company like us who already has those things in place, and we give you the software and the analysis and the teaching and the coaching and the mentorship for a fraction of the price. And so it's super exciting because once we start talking to our partners and we're like, hey, this is what it's going to take, and their eyes kind of like go like this, but then we're like, but this is what we're offering you and we'll do it all, then it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, we're actually saving them substantially what they would be paying to hire all these people individually. And then did you hire the right person? Yeah, that's a big mistake that people make. If you don't know the person, you're just going off a LinkedIn profile and a gut feeling in an interview, and then all of a sudden you're paying tens of thousands of dollars a month in the staff that you've hired. We'll also help assess if you've got the right people in place.
A key thing that business owners do that it's like a big mistake is they try to make too many changes at once. We teach if we are going to make a change or a pivot in somebody's business, it needs to be one change at a time. And we need to actually be able to see and read with real-time data on the software that we implement, real-time data in numbers to see what that change is doing. Because a lot of business owners, they have like ADD where they're like, hey, I got to do this and got to fix this and this. Well, it's actually figuring out what that one bottleneck is and then adjusting it immediately. And you can do things 7 times faster than the average. Most people, companies, let's paint a picture. So we're like, hey, we need to change this in our business and we're going to change it by next Monday's meeting. Well, that's 7 days away. Or you could just change your mindset and say that decision needs to be made by the end of the day. Or how about just the end of the hour? And then we're already saving all that time. You know something needs to change, right? You know something isn't working here. Because here's the data and the statistics to prove it, and we're waiting 7 days. So you're already going to scale 7 times faster than the average business owner.
Making the decisions right away.
Yeah.
And the biggest value we provide, that is because we've already had to make those decisions. So like said a lot of times, if you're 60 to 70% sure about a decision you're going to make the decision instead of waiting. We're basically making that like an 80, 85% decision because of our experience. That's what Drew's talking about by not waiting. You're eliminating all of that by involving us. And yet we do need to see real data. Your company specifically on the bottlenecks. Now, most bottlenecks are the same, believe it or not. It's 4 or 5 things that are happening to a company. Doesn't matter what your product is, really. It's more about the people, where you're spending money,
generating more revenue,
and getting more business.
A lot of business people are trying to save money here and save money there, penny pinch here. Well, if you just added in an extra $50,000 a month in revenue,
you don't need to worry.
All your problems are solved almost immediately. And that could be done by one good marketing channel. So one good marketing channel, okay, how about 2? How about 3? There's so many different avenues, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
They all need to be maximized. LinkedIn needs to be maximized if you're doing anything business to business. If you're doing anything trying to get to the C-suite level decision makers in a company, you need to be maximizing LinkedIn. We're great at doing that.
Well, also talent acquisition. Every business is in the business of talent acquisition. Unless you're like a coach, like a personal trainer or something like that, where you're in the gym and you're working with the clients and it's basically just a one-man show, then maybe you don't need talent acquisition because you're going to do it all yourself. But any actual business format that you would think of, a universal business format, you need talent acquisition to get better people on your team or to want to come work for you. And so that's one of the keys. If you're looking at 2 software companies side by side, the software engineer is like, who do I work for? Well, it's the person that has a better presence on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Right? And they'll even do that if they're going to make less money.
Yes.
They'll make less money working for a company that has more social proof and social presence. That's why so many people work for Google and Apple.
Because they know the companies.
Yeah. And they don't always pay the most, but they have the best, look at the best, push forward when it comes to getting to the end of that person's career, right? They're always looking 5 to 10 years ahead of where's this going to take me. And so setting themselves up by working with the most notable companies in the game, that's a big step in the right direction. And
I would even say, even the coaches or training example, you're going to need, if you're going to hire coaches underneath you and build a real system, you're still going to need a talent acquisition.
For sure. That would obviously step over the $5 million mark.
When to scale and how to scale is another way that will help a lot, because that's also a critical part of it, how quickly to scale and getting someone to think that way. If it's a product that can be scaled, you should be scaling as soon as you can. You should be taking the work away from you, putting it into other people so that you can find other revenue streams.
Automation.
But you need to put the systems in place.
Whether it's an actual automation where AI is doing the work for you, which is great, and we implement that a lot, or if it's just automating it by giving the task to somebody else. Like we ask business owners and we say, hey, like how much do you make an hour? What's the number? And most people are like $500 to $1,000 an hour. That's like what I would charge. Well, but they're doing all the tasks that a $20 an hour person could do.
Right.
And so they're just completely wasting their time and their energy and their effort on something that could just be outsourced to somebody that's probably going to do it better than them because they don't have 100 things going on in the back of their mind.
They're going to do it.
They're just going to complete the task that they need to complete, which is what you hire them to do.
Yes. The AIs and VAs need to be used. Where they're used a lot in our company, they need to be. You need to cut your overhead. People that are doing the same work or better, believe me, they're so thankful when they work for you when you're hiring VAs. We use them.
Not only do we use them, we've worked with so many that we know how to hire them.
Yes.
And to actually implement SOPs, big thing, SOPs and KPIs. You're going to hear that a lot on this channel. and when you work with us, but we implement those things and we get you the person that's going to be best fit for the job that you need them to do.
Yeah, and actually those VAs end up training and weeding out the other VAs. Like you can build a system of them.
Dropping too much knowledge, man. Dropping too much.
You still have to be able to implement it. Something can be sitting in front of you. You've got to be able to implement it. And that's where we come in.
Yeah.
Is implementing.
I was just messing with you.
I know you were. But, and that's why it's going to take, we don't work with anyone that's not going to work with us for at least 3 months. Really, it's 6 months. Again, depending on how big your company is. We got to be able to wait to see how the data is working.
Yeah, we're looking for people. The business owner that we want is somebody that is super excited, ready to go, fired up to start the day, has great energy in the meetings. If you're that person, please contact us and let's talk about how we can help you grow, because that is the ideal client in our mind. And that is the person that will easily 10x in the next 12 months, whatever they are doing right now, with a little bit of help, mentorship, and consulting from us.
And not only that, guys, the select few that we really believe in and see in, we'll invest in ourselves. We'll partner up with you if we really believe in what you're doing and think that's what's necessary for you, because it's another revenue stream for us. We're always looking for new revenue streams. Now, again, we don't do that with everybody, but there are a select few that we do that with. The idea is viable, and not just viable, but if it's something we don't think other people are doing in the way that you're doing it, or the way that we can culture it, or, curtail it to how you're doing it in the future, we put our money where our mouth is. We don't just collect consulting fees.
Yeah. So let's talk about this, because something that's really interesting to me, coming from somebody that's in the social media era, right, is you at your age and all your successes in business, you've never had a social media presence, not Facebook, not Instagram, Snapchat. I don't even know if you know what Snapchat is. LinkedIn. So we're just now like, hey, I think it's time. We've done enough. We've had successes where it's time to share it and talk to it, from the masses. So give me a little background on why you decided to not ever do that.
Yeah. When my brother Will was alive, he was the social butterfly. He was the one that made all the social connections. I did briefly have a Facebook account. It must have been 09, 10, to organize class reunions, not just for my class. Our brother Jay's a year younger who works with us. And so it was easier to get a hold of people that way. But Will was even the one organizing all of that. And so when people would try to get a hold of me, I was never on Facebook. They'd be like, hey, why aren't you on? Hey, you're not responding. And then also, I didn't have any children. A lot of people post, I'm not married. I've never had any children. Not that I wouldn't have, it never happened. Engaged a couple times, it just didn't work. But that would have been something I probably would have posted, if I would have had that.
Well, I'm commending you. I think the whole point of this is that you've done all this and been successful without it in a day and age where some people can't do it without that.
Right.
So that shows more about you as a business person, as an entrepreneur, and shows more about your character as you just basically, I just picture you putting your head down every day and just grinding and hustling and taking care of what you really needed to focus on, rather than being distracted by views or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And then, as you know, because you had such a presence, I didn't need to have one in the last 6 years because of your presence. But now I do need to have one. I see the value of it now more than ever, in my opinion. I see the value of it. And I was really skeptical of AI too. They go hand in hand with me. It's just new technologies that I wasn't comfortable with. Social media, I was thinking of people sitting in their parents' basement, tweeting mean things to each other. That's how I saw social media. I didn't see it as being a tool, and really the most effective tool in bringing in new business. It just wasn't, business wasn't done that way in the last 2 generations, but it's completely how it's done now. And I know why. I can see why. When I see the kind of content people are putting on their LinkedIn profiles, the ones that are good and the ones that aren't. Now that I've delved into what this is, I think it's critical to have a presence, and I will now have a very large one. Well, I'll build it to reach as many people as I can to help them build their businesses. What excites me the most about what we do with OptiGrowth AI is watching the companies build, watching them, something they care so much about. They've risked everything to do what they're doing.
When the light goes off and it's like, oh my gosh, it's just this little tweak.
Yes.
It's oftentimes not a big thing that needs to be changed.
Correct.
And then it's like the aha moment. And that feeling it feels really, really good.
And we'll do, if it is those rare occasions where the tweaks can't happen, we'll tell you that right away. Look, you're going to need to change. You need to do something for a living. And I can tell you what I would do if I were you, but this idea isn't working. We don't just take people's money. We care a lot about it. Thankfully, we're successful enough where we don't need to worry about feeding our families off of new things that we develop into. So it's purely passion that we're doing it. Do we want to make money? We'll always want to make money. We're for-profit people, but it's not the pressure of having to do it every day. And then when you don't have that pressure, you can be truly authentic with what you're teaching people, what you're coaching people about, because it's truly coming from a place of, I really wanted to watch you grow.
Well, it also took a couple months, even upwards of a year. Over the last 12 months, basically, we've slowly transitioned out of being that person that's leading the charge.
Yes.
And doing everything in the business. You know, the key man factor. This is one of the things that Alex Hormozi talks about, that you can't grow, scale, or exit a company more than 50 million if you have a key man deterrent. Meaning one person doing everything, understanding everything, basically got the whole playbook just kind of hidden to himself and not releasing that or allowing other people to step and do what needs to be done.
It's just trusting other people, putting the people in place that you can trust. That's the biggest bridge people have from 5 to 20 million, is trusting other people with the information to do what you were doing. You will not grow if you don't do that.
We remember the times where we were operations, we were HR,
everything.
We were manager.
That's why we were working so many hours.
Yeah, that's awesome about the social media thing. I'm super excited to see how that unfolds and get you on camera, because obviously I've known you for years now, and I'm like, dude, we got to get you on camera. We gotta start sharing all your experiences. Like I said, you're coming up there in age where like
I'm 50, guys.
You've had a lot of experiences. I just say that as a joke a lot of times. But you've had a lot of experience in business and in life. You're an extremely good speaker. You're very fluent and you understand words sometimes that I don't. Like your English is just, it's on point. So those are some of the things that we're going to break you out of your shell basically and really start putting you out there, because I think that's going to be really, really good for business, really good for you, and really beneficial for people who are watching this.
Yeah, it's been great for me to go down this OptiGrowth path. I'm really excited for its expansion. I'm ready to do it. I'm energized. I really enjoy talking to entrepreneurs. I know how they feel. I know the risks they're taking. I know how trying it can be, how hard it can be to talk about failures. I've been down all of those paths. I've just thoroughly enjoyed getting to know so many different business owners. I learned so much from it. And then I also learned that a lot of the people's problems are the same, and which is how we're able to use the systems that we're able to use, is because a lot of people's problems are the same.
Talking about failures, you made a good point, because I think one of the key things about that is talking about it is the number one way to understand what happened and how you prevent it from ever happening again. And so those are one of the first conversations that we have once we bring somebody on. When we get them onboarded, is talking about all the things that they don't feel as went good in the business, went well in the business, current things that are operational nightmares. And so we can instantly nip that in the butt and give them a little bit of a clearance and give them a lighter breath to be like, okay, hey, this is a really easy change. You're kind of like making it look like a much bigger monster here than what it is.
And most likely, whatever it is, we've done the same change or something very close. So we also bring that up to them. Look, this is what we were doing. This is why we changed it, because we were them at one point too. We probably could have grown even faster than we have if we were more open instead of just doing all the work ourselves. I mean, at one point, you and I were doing almost all of the work.
Yeah.
In the company.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, we were sitting in the office literally 6 days a week for like at least 12 hours a day.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously talking to each other on the phone, even on Sundays.
Yeah.
About, what we did this week, what we're going to do starting tomorrow, and run it all over again. But I think we grew a lot as people during those times, as many of them do too. But like I said, we wanted more than that. And so if that's what path they're on or you're on and you're listening to this, I think it's time to step outside your comfort zone, hire somebody that is better than you. Let me rephrase better than you, because anybody who's making more money than you is better than you in some way.
Sure.
But not every way.
No.
So this is what we highlight, the areas of business owners that where they are just all stars in this certain pillar of business. And then we're going to make sure that that gets highlighted, and we'll take over the areas where they're struggling.
Yeah. The famous old saying used to be a well-rounded person. And I'm not saying don't be that way emotionally in life. I think you should be. But in business, no, just focus on what you're great at and hire the people that are great at what you're not. That is the mistake. We were wearing so many hats, probably still wearing too many hats in our company, to be honest. We have control issues too. But the more free that we've been in hiring and promoting, we're big on promotion too, big on making sure you're paying people fairly. All of that's just as important with growth, because your retention of the people that are worth it is just as important. Just don't fixate on having to be great at everything. Just be really, really good at what you're really, really good at, and plug in the other holes with people that are really, really good at that. Again, another reason to really maximize using LinkedIn. LinkedIn's phenomenal for all of that. When I learned how great that tool was and the possibilities of it, I can't wait to dive into it even more. And again, what I did was just hired the experts that were great at it already to maximize what we can do with it. I'm still going to learn as I go as well, but we just hired the best people, asked around and hired the best people at the different types of social media that there are. That's what we did. Thankfully, because of the success of our solar company, and we are able to do that. Don't penny pinch if you know you're moving forward in the right direction, including getting consulting work done. Are we the cheapest people to do that? No, we're not. But do you go to the cheapest doctor when you need a surgery? Is that what you want? Or the mechanic?
Cheapest barber?
Yeah, you want someone that's good at what they do. Some of the biggest mistakes Drew and I made in construction is hiring contractors, subcontractors, because we were the GCs and still are, that would give us a better price, but so often it would take so much longer, material would go missing. But again, we were trying to make higher profit margins. It ended up costing us more in the long run. So now we don't argue those things anymore. We just know it's going to be a certain rate of return.
And the service that's provided is more important than the cost.
100%. The peace of mind that someone's doing what they're supposed to be doing. You don't have to micromanage them. If you've got to micromanage anybody in their position, you've got the wrong person. You need to have
100%.
people that are individual creators on their own. You want mini entrepreneurs because they're not working for themselves. Yeah. But that's what you're really looking for. You're looking for people to build your businesses. We're very big on that. We're very big on promoting people from within and giving them a lot of autonomy. We do not micromanage as much as we can. We have weekly meetings, but they run their own departments. Free autonomy all week to do so.
Yeah, one of the key things, I'm going to talk about one of our experiences with Alex Hormozi.
Oh, yeah.
He is just, if you haven't seen or heard of Alex Hormozi, like stop the video right now and I give you full permission to just go look him up on YouTube, because he's just a genius marketer, brander, entrepreneur, extremely intelligent, very well spoken. I have nothing but great things to say about him.
Very humble.
Humble too. Just gets shit done at the end of the day. And is just a real person. He's wearing a wife beater and all of his business meetings and stuff. And that's just who he is. And it's what makes him comfortable, and it allows him to tackle the most amount of work. But anyway, what we talked about.
Amazing executive team too, by the way. Weren't those guys incredible?
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking in my head, how in the world does he get all of these people who could very, very well be running their own company? They were at one point to work with him.
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating phenomenon, because it's culture, it's vision, it's being the best leader, where somebody is like, I would actually rather work for you for less money to be involved in whatever you are doing in this business. And I believe in your vision so wholeheartedly that we're going to push forward together. And imagine now you stack that with 8 executives, all in the same room, who have the same thing. Like the CEO of his company, or the president, I don't know exactly who it is, but he was running a $1 billion business.
He was, just under.
Yeah, he was running $1 billion business, and now he's the CEO or president. I don't know exactly which one, but that's what makes his company successful, because he has other entrepreneurs within the organization just doing fantastic things that are just attacking. They don't have to be coached. They don't have to be driven or pushed or motivated in any other way, rather than just their own motivation that they wake up with every single morning. They all hit the gym.
Oh, easily. They're all in great shape.
So
they all dress well. They all speak well.
That's the vibe that basically we saw. Yeah. And we were like, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like if we could just create that culture of our own, why not us?
Yes.
Right. That's one of the things that we say, like, why not us?
Exactly. Why aren't we them?
And so, yeah, I just thought that was so interesting.
Well, we implement the things that we were taught
immediately.
Yeah. Right when we got back.
Immediately, we hired 2 key personnel in our solar business that just catapulted us. I mean, we went from, in a matter of 6 months, we were projecting a $10 to $12 million revenue run, and we expedited that to 25 to 30 million in just 6 months.
Yeah.
Because of a director of operations and a chief sales officer.
Correct.
Somebody who can come in and actually manage the deals and the revenue. Oh, and then the third person actually was a marketing officer. Found out that the bottleneck in Quality Solar at the time was not generating enough money, or not having enough money per deal coming in, because we're installing, 30 to 40 jobs a month. But how Quality Solar was created was not how Quality Solar is now.
No.
And so clearly we had to do a lot of operational changes and change the structure of the business to be ultra successful, because we were originally a subcontractor who was subcontracting.
To a subcontractor.
And so our margins were really shrunken down. One thing that helped was it actually allowed us to work with some of the top companies in the industry and see all the things that they were doing right and all the things that they were doing wrong.
Yeah.
Adjust and pivot. And so that's where I think our creativity as business owners and somebody who's just like, yeah, I'm going to take that example right here. There's a lot of great things that you're doing. There's a couple bad things that we don't like. And why can't we just mold that into what we're doing and cut out the nonsense?
Exactly.
And so that's exactly what we did. And we went from running 2 crews that was generating like 5 million 2 years ago into now we're doing 6 crews. But instead of a $4.5 million per 2 crews, now we're running 6 crews that is over 30 million. We're talking 2.25 million in revenue per crew. And then now we're at 6. We theoretically should only be at 12 million.
Correct.
But we're on pace to hit 25 to 30.
Because of the systems that are in place, because of the people that are in place.
An amazing marketing channel.
Yep.
Now we're getting twice the amount of revenue per deal, or profit per deal, I'll say. And then having just an outstanding management team that's actually supporting the back end operations, where we can actually lean into our field director who is actually managing the crews and just say, hey, you are just to quality control and nip all that bad stuff out. One of the things that gets solar a bad name is bad installs.
Yeah. Constructed poorly.
Or
it wasn't not saving enough money.
And lack of information at the cell.
Gouging customers.
Yeah, gouging customers. So those were like the 2 things that we were like immediately when we talk about a bottleneck, those were the 2 things that we just attacked right then and there. And it set us up for tons and tons of future success.
The biggest thing was the quality of the install. And we went from when we got the quality of the install down and the volume, we went to banks to provide the most aggressive financing. We didn't want to just hire any type of sales rep. They had to be ethical. It wasn't just about sales for sales itself. That's a big problem with a lot of those bigger companies is they didn't care who they were hiring. They had operating systems that were really impressive, but they didn't care.
On either side.
Correct.
Installs too.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Because now we're contracted with one of the biggest, I won't name drop them, but we're contracted with one of the biggest companies in the industry for solar, just doing detach and resets. Meaning they have a leaky roof and we're going back to take the solar off while the roof gets redone and then put the solar back on. And knock on wood, to date, after 3 years of being in business, we do not have a single roof.
We don't. That's right. We have not had a single roof leak.
Exactly.
I did not think of that.
Yep.
Wow.
That's my forte.
Yeah, it is. That's what you run, but that's amazing that we haven't had one.
So obviously that preventing loss of money.
Well, it's that marketing arm that you're talking of, which is why we created OptiGrowth AI. When we were really introduced to what AI does and the most effective ways of using it and the tools to use it with, which are your Meta ads and LinkedIn and cold email campaigns, and then tweaking those. You got to have the right technicians to tweak those as you develop them. And then you need to really, really optimize your LinkedIn profile. Those are the types of techniques that we help people with. And you can Google all of that, but that doesn't mean you've got the right people to do it.
And timing too, not doing one before the other. So imagine you had 3 problems, right? And we're like, okay, we got to solve these 3 problems as fast as we possibly can. Well, the most important problem is the one that should be focused on and just leave and completely forget the other 2. So first problem can be solved potentially maybe as short as 1 to 2 days. Then we can start tackling problem 2, followed by problem 3, rather than just mad rush and just like acting crazy and everybody just trying to do too many things at once, trying to solve all 3 problems at once, which could delay 3, 4, 5 weeks, even months, still having the same problems.
And the biggest problems people have, guys, is their systems. Their systems are not talking to each other, especially if they're doing 5, 6, 7, 8 million. Everyone's working a lot, but they're not talking to each other. And so before you pump more sales in, which is what everyone thinks is just the automatic answer, you've got to make sure the systems are speaking to each other and that you've got the right people in those positions. That has to happen.
Yeah.
When we get hired, it's the first thing we look at.
Operational structure and org chart.
Yep. Very important. And making sure you've got the right people in the right places. Behavioral tests are important. You need to make assessments of everybody. You can turn sales on again, no problem. It's actually the least expensive thing to do versus the results you get. Yeah. But if the systems are not in place, if the architecture is not working, then it won't. You'll just cause more of the same problem.
Absolutely.
The biggest thing I want people to be left with is like the story that we shared,
Mm-hmm.
we knew we wanted to do business together really early on and hit the ground running because we're both aggressive people. We were not afraid to make mistakes and then learn and pivot from those. All we're doing is taking that same energy after years of experience and now years of success and trying to share it with other people so they don't make the same mistakes. Especially at the stage of life I'm in. At 50 years old, you start to really reflect and you start to want to give back. That's why we created a foundation a year ago, but also I find a lot of joy in helping other companies that are living their dreams, just to help them do it at a faster success.
Another thing is the fastest way for growth is to actually not follow your passion. It's to follow the opportunity and to follow what works. And hopefully your passion can grow around that. It's the journey as opposed to the end result or the beginning result. Really focusing on the journey of growth, self-development, and business development is ultimately the number one thing that we really highlight and focus on. And we're going to leave you with that. Again, I am Drew Collum, CEO of OptiGrowth AI and Quality Solar. And again, I have my partner here, Mr. Kevin Goodwin.
I am the Chief Business Officer of Quality Solar and Executive Vice President of OptiGrowth AI.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.